I know.
Okay.
You know, really.
Every day.
Yeah, you know, probably the city manager doesn't have to be up there, but
No, we're not.
I don't know how we deal with that. Just leaving? Leaving. Okay.
Because it's the city.
Okay. Okay, can you take two steps this way? Everybody come this way.
Come together. If everybody can come together, scoot together, come. Yeah.
You ready? Kathy, am I on? Oh, I heard it.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here with us today as we demand action on gun violence. I'm joined by my fellow mayors, Tracy Furman of Kensington, Kate Stewart of Tacoma Park, and Judd Ashman of Gaithersburg, Rockville City Council Member Beryl Feinberg, Kensington Council Member Nate Engel. Thank you. Also, County Executive Mark Elrich, Council President Gabe Albernaz, Council Members Sidney Katz, Andrew Friedson, Senator Cheryl Kagan. Delegate Jared Solomon is on his way. He is stuck in our traffic. Mindy Farber, Chair of the Brady Campaign.
Landau.
See, I should stop.
It's okay.
Mindy Landau, Chair of the Montgomery County Brady Campaign and Mothers Against Gun Violence. To begin, I'd like to ask my good friend and the Reverend Barry Moultrie of Mount Calvary Baptist Church to say a few words and lead us in prayer.
Good afternoon. Let me say that a few days ago we had shooting in Buffalo. We've had shooting in Uvalde, Texas. We had a fight at a school in Alexandria, Virginia, and a child was stabbed. We've had fights in schools all across our country. Our problem is we don't love each other enough. It's really, really simple. We say we love each other, but do we really? We don't talk to each other like we love each other. We don't fight like we love each other. We don't argue like we love each other. But it's real clear that hatred cannot exist where love abides. If we could just find room in our hearts to begin to love each other, to show love and share love with each other, we can change this. But that's the only way we change this. We do need to control guns, who has access to guns. We need to fix a lot of things systemically in our society, but mostly we need to love each other. So let's pray and ask that our God guide us in that love. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, we're hurting and we're exhausted, running out of tears, and certainly don't have answers. If we ever needed you, oh God, we need you now. We ask simply that you empty us of all of our preconceived notions and fill us with your love. Give us a heart that leans towards each other. Help us to want to care for each other. Continue to grow in us and bless us that we might bless each other. That harming one another might be the farthest things from our minds. Even now, God, as we stand here, we know the NRA convention is kicking off in Houston. Help us, God. We ask that you would fill our minds and our memories so that when we vote, we would vote in favor of love. We ask simply, God, that you love us and help us to love each other. We thank you and we love you. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Moultrie. Your words are powerful, and they speak to the pain and helplessness that we are all feeling, and still feeling 10 years after Sandy Hook, which was 13 years after Columbine. The murders of 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, came 10 days after 10 people were murdered and 3 injured at a Buffalo grocery store, which was 1 day before 6 people were shot at Geneva Presbyterian Church in Laguna Woods, California. I am tired of thoughts and prayers. We are all so tired of thoughts and prayers. We are beyond fatigued with the actions of 50 senators, putting the health and safety of Americans behind the will of the majority. 89% of Americans support universal background checks. 86% of Americans support red flag laws. 60% of Americans support banning high-capacity ammunition clips. Over a year ago, on March 11th, 2021, the U.S. House of Representatives passed H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446. On August 8th, 2021, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, of which I am a member, sent a letter to the Senate calling for the immediate passage of the Bipartisan Background Check Act and the Enhanced Background Checks Act. These bills are still pending in the Senate in May of 2022. Today, it was announced that Congress is giving itself 10 days to find a deal on gun control. 10 days to do the right thing? Not in my world, and I hope it's not in yours either. We must demand action now. I'd like to welcome County Executive Mark Elrich to say a few words.
So, it began the week standing with Buffalo, New York. And here we are ending the week standing with the people of Uvalde, Texas. It's been a week of unspeakable violence, and guns have played, obviously, a major role in this. This is not acceptable. It's not something we can come to accept, and it's not something we can come to be numb to. I talked to some kids at a high school after the shooting in the other high school, and I asked them how this affected them, and it was kind of frightening that their answer was, well, you know, we kind of expect it. It's kind of normal. It's an expectation that if it happens, it's no longer shocking. It's part of the landscape. A couple years ago, I was in Germany, and they have an exhibit there outside of the former headquarters of the Gestapo, and it's an exhibit of the topography of terror, they call it. And if you walk through the topography of terror, you see the messages that were given to the people of Germany that incited in them the hatred and the willingness to kill people and be indifferent to human life that systematically rolled. Didn't all happen overnight. It happened over a period of years. And as I watched it, I felt I was looking at America. I felt I was seeing the playbook in Germany being played out in the United States. It's not just the guns, it's the thoughts that were in that kid's mind before he ever had the gun. He bought the gun days before he went out and killed people, but he had contemplated what he was doing for a long time. People on the dark web saw his thoughts. Nobody thought anybody should know about this. Nobody stepped forward. So we've got to do everything we can do to get Congress to do the right thing. I only wish we could do this in Montgomery County. I would do this in a heartbeat. We tried it when I was in Tacoma Park. We could not do what we wanted to do. But we need to get this done at the congressional level. But even if you get the guns out of the stores, they are so prevalent in this society, it is far too easy to get them other ways. We need people who know about people with illegal guns, and particularly people with automatic weapons, to tell somebody. Not keep it as a secret. You're not keeping somebody's friendly secret. You're keeping the secret of somebody who's potentially extremely dangerous. So we need to be willing to talk about what we see out there, and we as the adults in the community and representatives of many institutions have to talk about the kind of hateful ideas, whether it's replacement theory or being obsessed with critical race theory or any of this other nonsense. We've got to be willing to talk to people and say it's not okay to think like that. It's not okay to be a racist. It's not just another point of view. It becomes weaponized, and we've seen it weaponized. And we need to find a way as the adults in the community to make sure that the children in the community do not get this message and do not think this is a healthy message and do not carry it out. I'll just close by saying, growing up in Montgomery County, and I grew up during the integration period and the civil rights period, there's plenty of overt racism and plenty of overt anti-Semitism. The kids I grew up with did not invent these ideas themselves. You know, a 4-year-old does not think, gee, should I be anti-Semitic or should I hate black people? They got that from people older than them. It has not changed. And we've got to make sure that the conversations in our community let people know this is not the right way to think, it's not an acceptable way to think, and we're not going to tolerate. We're not going to tolerate your weapons, and we're not going to tolerate those kind of ideas. This is not the kind of casual, friendly debate that you welcome in an open society. This is a very different thing. It's poisonous and it's deadly. So we have a lot of work to do, and we need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, County Executive. I'd now like to ask Council President Gabe Albernaz to say a few words.
Well, first, thank you, Mayor Newton, for organizing this important event and giving us a time and space to once again reaffirm that here in our community, what we are seeing nationally is wholeheartedly unacceptable. As the county executive mentioned, I began this week as well speaking at Mount Calvary Baptist Church, acknowledging the 10 lives lost, the 10 families shattered in the terrible incident that had occurred in Buffalo. And just a few days later, had to explain to my 8-year-old son what had transpired in Uvalde, Mexico, because he had seen it on the news. This is not the world that I want my kids to grow up into, and it doesn't have to be. We stand before you here today with representatives from our state, local, and municipal leaders. And the state of Maryland is doing all it can to ensure that we have among the strongest gun safety measures across the United States. In Montgomery County just last year, through a zone text amendment, we passed legislation unanimously to ban the sale of ghost guns. And thanks to our General Assembly, this most recent session, that ban now crosses across our entire state. But that doesn't go far enough because we are limited in our ability to control what happens in commerce across other states. When in Virginia and in Pennsylvania, you can have these gun fairs where indiscriminately people can go and purchase weapons with very little in the way of background checks. We have to turn the moment of silence that we will all participate in momentarily into a movement that crosses generations, a movement that crosses faiths, a movement that crosses genders and gender identities, and a movement that ensures the inclusive anger and rage that we transition to love, that we transition to a common understanding in the humanity that rests in all of us. What happened in Uvalde is unimaginable. But when I see the audience today, when I see these remarkable leaders behind me, when I see the movement that is possible through organizations such as the Brady Campaign and Moms Demand Action, let's counter this awful convention that is occurring in Houston, Texas as we speak, with the movement of residents and individuals from across this country to fight back against this hate, to fight back against this insanity and the impunity of the gun lobby to be able to allow too many of our residents, too many people who have no business owning guns and certainly no business owning weapons that have no reasonable business on our streets. I am angry. I am tired, but I am resolved. And as an elected leader in this community, I will make sure that at the local level, at least, we do all that we can to fight back. And we as Washingtonians have a unique responsibility because of who is in our backyard. We have to collectively get together as a movement, here regionally within the DMV, and that starts today. So thank you all for convening this very important meeting. And while I am angry and tired, I am optimistic because we have to be. We can turn this around, but it's going to take every single one of us and many more people around this world. We can do it, and it starts today. I'd now like to welcome my colleague and the Public Safety Chair on the Montgomery County Council, Councilmember Sidney Katz.
Thank you very much, Council President. When Bridget Newton called me a couple days ago, just a few days ago, and thank you all for being here with such short notice, I thought, and she said, I'd like you to take no more than a minute or two to say what you want to say. And I thought, a minute or two is not going to be anywhere enough to say what I'd like to say. And I agree with everyone who has spoken before me, and I have a feeling I'm going to agree with everyone that's going to speak after. But the reality is that a minute is long enough if this minute is the next minute that we can get something done. We talk about that we're going to have a moment of silence, and we should. We should have a moment of silence. But it should be our last moment of silence. We need to no longer be silent. We need to make certain that those that need to hear us, hear us. We're here today because we love America. We love each other. To the pastor's point, we love each other, we love America, but America has to stop loving its guns. There is no reason that someone should have an assault rifle. We have got to stop loving assault rifles. And we need to come together to make certain that those who understand how much we love our children, that we need to have all of this stop. We need to make certain that our neighbors are safe, we need to make certain our children are safe, and we need to make certain that all of us come together to make certain that this ends forever. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to welcome District 1 Councilmember Andrew Friedson.
Thank you to Mayor Newton for gathering us here. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you to all of you. I am grateful that we are here, but I regret why we're here and why we're here again and again and again. It feels like too often we have to gather to have vigils where we talk about all the things that we know are happening and we see too little progress on what is happening. And we have a toxic stew in this country. There are too many guns. There is too easy access to those guns. There is too much racism and hatred and xenophobia and anti-Semitism. And there's too many who face mental health challenges who lack the adequate supports to get the help they need. And when you mix too many guns and too easy access to those guns with all the other terrible things that are going on in our country, that toxic stew becomes deadly. And it happens in one community, and then it happens in another community, and eventually it's going to happen in our community. Unless we do something to stop it, what happens in one community risks the safety of all our communities. What happens to one of our neighbors risks the safety to all of our families. We do have to make a choice of whether or not we value our children more than we value our guns. Whether we value our neighbors more than we value this idea of the frontier, this idea of personal protection, whether we want to protect each other as much as we feel like we need to protect ourselves. The idea of our country has to be the idea of being a country that values one another. It's what makes us a country. And until we make that choice, that we value each other more than we value ourselves, that we value the protection of all more than we value the idea, the sense of security for ourselves, which doesn't even exist when everybody else is unsafe. So are you. So until we make everybody safe, nobody is safe. So this idea that one person's protection at the risk of everybody else's safety somehow keeps that one person protected is false. It's wrong. And we have to combat against it. I'm fed up too. I'm tired too, but we're not going to stop fighting. We're not going to stop pushing. We're not going to give up, because none of us are willing to look in the eye of a child and tell them that they're not safe at school, or tell somebody that they can't go to a movie theater, or tell somebody that they can't go and pray at their place of worship and not be safe, or have to tell them that and not know if they're telling them the truth. We can't accept that here in our community. We can't accept that here in our county. We cannot accept that in this country. I know that we're going to join together, and we're going to fight it, and we're going to push back, and we are not going to stop until this changes, because we know that lives depend on it, our children's future depend on it, and we can't stop until we've made it happen. Thank you very much.
Oh, go ahead. I want to take a quick minute to introduce a couple people that I didn't see in the beginning. Councilmember Monique Ashton from the City of Rockville, Councilmember Rob Wu from Gaithersburg, Delegate Jarrett Solomon just arrived from our traffic, sorry about that. City Manager Rob DeSpirito, our Deputy City Manager Angela Judge, our Chief of Police Victor Brito, and all the RCBD police who are here today, and Commander Hattenberg. Thank you all so much for what you do for our community to keep us safe. So thank you. I'd like to ask Senator Kagan to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also want to acknowledge our wonderful newest delegate, Linda Foley, from the district just west of here, State's Attorney John McCarthy I saw earlier, and all of the activists and advocates who are here. As Councilmember Katz mentioned, the mayor asked us to speak for not more than 1 or 2 minutes. 1 or 2 minutes is all the time it takes for someone with a deadly firearm to murder multiple people. It's a really short period of time, and it's a deadly period of time. I was very privileged. One of the most important things I've ever done in my life, I worked with Jim and Sarah Brady, and I was one of the lobbyists that passed the Brady Bill and the assault weapons ban in the early 1990s. The Brady Bill, for those of you who are too young or don't remember, was a 7-day waiting period. We called it a cooling off period for someone who was struggling with thoughts of suicide, someone who's angry and wants to take vengeance. 7 days before you can get a gun would give you the time to cool off, to rethink things, and come to a better conclusion. The assault weapons ban and the Brady Bill both had sunsets. They both expired. But while they were the law of the land, and I can tell you that Senator Joe Biden was our key ally in the Senate and was our key leader, and now he's in the White House. He has a long-time passionate commitment to sensible gun control, and that's what we need, is sensible laws. And I can tell you that Delegate Foley and Delegate Solomon and I and the bulk of the General Assembly just united to pass ghost guns, and that is now law in Maryland. So we can do what we can do in Maryland. The problem is that our borders are porous. We live in America where people can travel. We need Congress to act, and they need to act now to save lives, keep our neighborhoods safe, and keep our kids safe. Thank you.
And now I'd like to hear from Mindy Landau.
Thank you, Mayor Newton, and thank you so much for organizing this. It's wonderful to see so many people here who support the cause. My colleague and I founded the Montgomery County chapter of Brady United Against Gun Violence 10 years ago, right after the Sandy Hook shootings. And we thought, oh my God, 20 children gunned down, this will never happen again in America. And here it has. It's 10 years later, and it's happening again. And I am so traumatized by all of these shootings, as I know all of you are, and everybody I go to, all my friends, all my family, they all say, what can we do? What can we do? We feel so helpless. But I have learned so much since I've been involved in this organization. There are things going on that you have no idea about that are just horrifying. For instance, I used to work for a regulatory agency in the federal government, so I know a little bit about regulations. But the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms has not had a leader at the helm since 2015. this has been deliberately stymied by the Republicans in the Senate because they don't want a leader of ATF. They've also denied them the budget they need to do their job, so they can't properly inspect and enforce gun dealers. They can't possibly. They have not enough inspectors to do it. They have not enough budget to do it. We have gun dealers right in this county who have severe violations and have been selling to people that they should not be selling with, and their licenses have not been revoked. So there's a lot we can do. We can call Senator Van Hollen, Senator Cardin. I know they're big supporters, but we need to keep telling them that we support them and that we want them to keep fighting. To confirm the new nominee that's being put up, his name is Steve Dettelbach. He's a great guy. He will head the ATF if he is confirmed. It's this and so many other issues. We're not allowed to sue gun manufacturers. I mean, it's a law that we're not allowed to sue them. Did you know that? I mean, it's incredible. We have a lot to do, and we have to keep chipping away gradually. We're not going to be able to solve all our problems with one law or one strategy, but we've got to keep on it and keep on the fight, and don't lose hope, because all of us together, our collective anger can really make a difference, and I found that to be true, and I hope you all stay in the fight with us. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
I'm getting a lot of credit for pulling this together, and it's not on me. It's on all of us. It's on the fact that I knew people wanted to come together. It's on the fact that my colleagues in the elected office at the state and local level also wanted to get together. The 1 to 2 minute is on Kathy. But we decided to say that because we thought some people might go for 5. So before I hand it over to our council president, I really want to thank you all so much for coming today and joining with us. It is incredible to me how none of us shared our remarks beforehand, but they all resonate with each other because we all feel the same way. So I'd like to ask Council President Albanese to join us, to lead us in a moment of silence.
Thank you. This is going to be a little bit of a twist in a moment of silence. I saw this at an event recently, and I thought it was incredibly effective because we've had so many moments of silence, and it feels like our flags are more in half-mast now these days than they are not. And so what we're going to do today, right now, is a little bit of a breathing exercise. It's the end of a long week. It's Memorial Weekend. All of us have 1,000 things on our mind right now as we speak. But we have to center ourselves in this moment. We have to make sure that, to the best of our ability, we take out the clutter around us and focus on the task at hand, which is establishing this movement that all of us have spoken to and that we all must work towards. And so what I'd like to ask you to do is to please close your eyes. And when I count to 3, I want you to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. One last time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you for joining. There's more work to do, and we will get it done. Thank you.